Well, looks like we got him, guys. We have infected the Act Man with the woke mind virus. In all seriousness, I've found this entire saga, if you really see it that way, very interesting. I feel like the Act Man kind of represented the average gamer in many more ways than one. Notably when it came to just his priorities when it came to gaming. While yes, he wasn't immune to certain culture war talking points, and he definitely jumped on the occasional bandwagon due to just the habits of the average gamer tending to do those things, he more often than not was just there for a good game. Like, he wanted a fun, good game to play, and if it was a bad game, he would rate it poorly, and he would shit talk it. If it was a good game, he would rate it highly, and usually offer some defense of it if people are shit-talking it. He very clearly wasn't ideologically driven, but he definitely leaned more on the wokeness, or I guess I should say, rainbow capitalism type stuff in games. Is kind of cringe, and a trend that's not really doing anything helpful for the gaming industry. If anything, it might be alienating people. I would basically summarize his take on most of these things as that. Now, the fact that this is not a dude who immediately sees, like, blue hair on a character in a video game and loses his shit, he's found himself occasionally at odds with other parts of the gaming community. Notably the content creators who are blatant grifters that are genuinely just trying to spew a validation of the discomfort many gamers feel with the space and the genre and the medium being continuously more diversified and broadened to a wider scoped audience. They're uncomfortable with it, and so the idea that bad changes are coming with that is an easy sell for a lot of these people, and they just want that vibe validated. These creators have a vested interest in grifting nonstop off of hate for any new popular piece of media, notably any new game, right? We're talking about your figures like Grums or Andy Pants Gaming, who notably, I believe both these people have tussled a fair amount with the Act Man in the last year or so. The Act Man's quickly gone from seeing a lot of these figures of significant note in the gaming community complain about politics in the context of weird, overly inserted, like, virtue signaling messaging from certain studios that really didn't serve any purpose to the media and was just there to kind of be like, hey, we're progressive. He went from agreeing with people who were calling out that as being disingenuous and kind of cringe to calling out those same people who are now blatantly grifting off of the easy rage bait clicks of any new popular thing. And so, these people would push back against the Act Man. Notably, Andy Pants and him had a big debate. I think the Act Man did very well there, but what became very clear to me, I could just kind of tell from the Act Man's face, was the full realization that Andy Pants was a grifting piece of shit that did not have an honest bone in his body. You could tell from the way he handled him, from the faces he would make, from the way he reacted to certain things Andy Pants would say. The realization did not take long to set in that he is not arguing with an honest person who actually means anything he's saying, right? And I thought at the time this might lead Act Man into not necessarily a political evolution, but more so a broadening of his scope of concerns when it comes to, like, what matters when it comes to critiquing games. And I feel like he might find himself leaning more on the who the fuck cares about this culture war shit when it comes to games position, less so than he originally fell more on the anti-woke side, if you were to really, like, plot him on a graph, if you were to do that, right? And so I think I may be right. I don't think he's gone woke necessarily. I might say that in the title just to drive up the clicks, to be fair. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. YouTube's a tough game. But regardless, I want to watch this video. I think this is going to be a good demonstration of his widened horizons. People have been reporting to me that this is a very good video, and it's called Politics in Games. And it seems to just simply be about politics in video games. What do we mean when we say that? Do we mean outside of the video game politics? Do we mean the textual politics, the metatextual? What do we mean by that? Do we mean all of it? So let's find out. I'm very excited to see what, not Andy Pants, the Act Man's current position on politics in games is. I'm actually very giddy for this, because I feel like he might have been thinking about this for a while, and this might be like a more refined take. Let's find out.
You ever hear someone say, all art is political, or every video game is political? Music. Oh yeah? All video games have political undertones. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Okay, what about, I don't know, Tetris? Yeah, tell me how stacking blocks
here we go.
Is political. Well, did
He's
you
gonna
know
explain it.
that the creator of Tetris didn't actually earn a single cent until a decade after its release? Or should I say, he didn't make a single ruble because Alexei Pajitnov hailed from Russia, and Tetris was created under communism of the Soviet Union. That's right, in Soviet Russia, you don't make money from game. Soviet Russia make money from you. So in 1985, Microsoft, Atari, and Nintendo were all embroiled in a legal battle to acquire the rights to publish Tetris outside of the Soviet Union. 3 years later, what would be...
Okay, this is such a stun lock, but I have to talk about it because it's one of the coolest fucking things ever. Did it ever strike any of you as kind of fucking insane that back in the 80s, we had home consoles with little toy controller guns that you could point and aim at your screen, and you aimed in-game at your target on the screen, and you could pull the trigger on the controller and shoot your target, but you could also miss if you didn't aim properly? Like, I took away my camera so you could see here. This shit was fully real, and the way it worked is really interesting. I forget exactly what exactly the tech was, but it was really, really neat how they got around needing like the types of motion controls we have today in controllers to have this effect. Back then, it was literally just light stuff. Gun culture was huge. I'm not surprised. No, Mr. Popo, you're not paying attention to what I said. You missed the question entirely. Like, the fact that we were able to pull this off technologically is so cool because we used lights to pull this off. Ah, fuck, I almost want to Google it and read exactly how it was done, because I remember I found out about it, and it was so impressive. Because, like, we've had this tech, and it's not what you think it is. It's like they really cheated to make this work. The screen goes black, and the camera and the controller detects light spots in the CRT screen. I think you just got it, Amelia. Yeah, it's like there are micro fractional seconds where the screen goes black, except for the target, and there's like a little camera or something inside, or a light spot. It's like... it's insane. It's like they really found a way to use like old tech to cheat their way and cheese their way into achieving something that realistically should not have been technologically possible back then. We did not have that kind of controller tech, and they figured it out. That was what was so cool about like the 80s gaming tech, by the way. Like the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, they just figured that shit out to make it work. Like, they were like, okay, so, all right, let's just make the most revolutionary device of all time. Like genuinely, they did that. Like, the Game Boy set the standard and, like, paved the groundwork for a lot of portable technology that we know today. Like, it's so I love it. I could stun lock on this for an hour.
Published Tetris outside of the Soviet Union. 3 years later, what would become a timeless masterpiece and the best-selling video game of all time would come to the West. So, wait, is Tetris a political game? I mean, I'm confused. My brain hurts. What the fuck is this doing here? Huh? I mean, help me out here. Is Tetris political?
The question, is this a political game, doesn't actually mean anything, because it's what does the word political mean to you?
Well,
I love that quote, by the way. That quote is fantastic. And that's fundamentally what I think the Act Man is kind of making a point of here. I think he's had his... I don't think he's moved politically so much as his perspectives and concerns have been broadened, right? And so he's looking at the situation from more of like a broader scope than just what is the game? What is the text of the game? And more so like, okay, so when people say all art is political, what they mean by that is not that like all media is on its face sending a political message or meant to virtue signal some kind of political message, but that all art exists within the context of its creation. Maybe its creator wasn't paid for their work, and that's kind of a thing that might be relevant to the game, at least in terms of how we talk about it and how we engage with it in our modern culture. Maybe it has to do with the fact that maybe the game was made by a large publisher known for crunching and underpaying and mass laying off their workers. Are we really not... do we gamers really let like games like Overwatch or World of Warcraft slide when we talk about them and not talk about the real political ramifications of those games? Like, yeah, okay, so like we talk about these things like overworked devs, crunch time, and that actually has a bearing on how we judge these games, because that is political. That's politics. Politics in some way, shape, or form, metatextually, textually, or even on a complete meta level outside of that media in the real world, has some bearing on all art. And it's one of the biggest deciders in how that art exists and the context in which it exists and the way it exists. And once you realize that, you kind of get what people mean by all art is political. But if you don't know, or you aren't like paying attention to that, or you aren't looking for that, it can be easy to interpret all art is political as kind of a soy thing to say. You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of sounds soy when you don't know what it means.
Everyone's answer is going to be different, but if we want to...
Also, I assume he doesn't use it because it's right next to his PC setup, but this stresses me out immensely. He has what I think is his microphone cord going over the rim of like a fireplace, which is he in his living room, or is this a bedroom? Or maybe it's like a basement, finished basement room. Maybe it also has a fireplace. I love that he's got a fireplace next to him. It's very cozy. I love the vibe of it, don't get me wrong. But, like, I hope he never uses it because, A, really close to his PC setup, and B, he's got a wire right there on, like, the metal part of the frame of the fireplace that would totally, like, heat up and melt the cord if the fire was going. I don't know. It's just, it's racking my nerves a little bit, but I do like the aesthetic. I just hope he never actually lights that.
It'd be boring. The definition of politics is the activities associated with the governance of a country or other area. But in the realm of gaming, It feels like we hear a lot of keep politics out of video games. Stop politicizing video games. Hey, who made those videos? In the realm of gaming, political could be a story that revolves around politics or identity politics. The depiction of world leaders sometimes getting their heads blown off. That's fun. Can't imagine why Cuba was...
I'm going to be completely honest. Most people won't admit it, but politics is one of the biggest enhancements to a story you can possibly include. I think the politics include, like, the heavy political heavy-handedness of the Metal Gear Solid franchise is a lot of what carries it on. There are a lot of other franchises that do stealth. Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed, there are a lot of indie games that do it. But still, Metal Gear is the top because the way that Hideo Kojima and the writers and like the entire franchise engages with politics and leans into world politics of the setting being a massive factor of its story. Like, you need to have some level of like if you like going into Metal Gear Solid 5, if you don't like know about Russia occupying like Afghanistan and like all that, like you're gonna be a little confused. Like, why am I American but also against America in Afghanistan, knocking out Russians to bring into my army, but also the locals, the local Afghans are also a problem, but they're fighting the Russians, but also there is a group of Americans that have what's called a black site that are separate from the American military that are friends with the local Afghans against the... Like, you need to know a little bit about world politics going in to kind of get the context of just Metal Gear Solid 5, possibly the most approachable Metal Gear game in terms of its, like, setting and the politics behind it and stuff. Like, think of oh my god, one of my favorite examples, Final Fantasy XIV. People really got into Final Fantasy XIV once it leaned heavily into the politics of that world, right? notably in Heaven's Word. It became a big part of it, right? With the Holy See of Ishgard, kind of like the Catholic Church and their like regime and authoritarian religious rule over Ishgard and how that plays a part. Like the politics of these stories. I mean, look at Game of Thrones. Like 50% of Game of Thrones is political debates, right? These stories are so elevated by politics in ways that I don't think people even realize. Like, you can take a good story, add politics to it, in the sense that, like, the story handles politics in some way, and that can actually elevate it substantially, giving it depth that it did not have before. And people like it. Like, it draws people in, and I don't even think they realize that it's politics drawing them in. Or hell, Star Wars being, like the Star Wars prequels being, like, 25% Senate hearings, right? It's like, okay, this is politics.
Mad about that one. Politics in video games could be any number of things. Political parties that are represented in game, or fictional governments that might bear a resemblance to something in the real world. Politics could even apply to our favorite friend over here. Yes, Mr. Lootbox. Do you think if I open enough of these, I'll unlock some government regulations that prevent promoting gambling to children?
I bet he's going to get to this point as well, but fundamentally, if you are a Gamergater, or you at least believe in what Gamergate was supposed to be about, or at least what most gamers think Gamergate was supposed to be about, which is ethics in gaming journalism and ethics in the gaming industry, that's politics. Like, that's hardcore. Like, you are interested in politics if you're a gamer. You want games to be better. You want game devs to be, like, paid well and not overworked. You don't want mass layoffs. These are things that gamers do not like. These are political issues. Hell, you want games to be reasonably priced. You want to own them, and for them not to be full of pay to win and gambling. You want consumer protections that actually provide you with some level of assurance that you're going to get what you paid for and not get scammed. Like, this is politics. Politics matter if you're a gamer, and I think his perspective has been moved in some way. People are going to say he went woke. People are going to say he got left-wing or whatever, but I actually don't think that's the case. I think fundamentally he's like the average gamer who's just kind of refined his takes. Fundamentally, I think that's what he's done. He's refined his takes.
Only time will tell. And this topic can cover everything from culture wars past and present, how games and their stories are interpreted to promote a particular message. Is that message worth promoting? Should games have a message? Which ones? How do you tell? What's up, everybody? This is the Act Man here, and
Good
today
intro.
we're discussing what should the role of politics be in video games, within the confines of a game itself, and within the culture of the studio that creates it. When does politics or political messaging improve a game, and when does it make it worse? Is it about the message or its delivery? How can you tell the difference? Is all media political? Are you fucking bored yet? This is a massive topic to deconstruct, and I think I know just where to start. So there's this game called Sex with Hitler, right? And no.
Okay. Fuck, dude. I knew we had to talk about Sex with Hitler at some point on my channel. Anyway, that's a really good mention, by the way, Sorlim. Video game preservation. The whole topic of emulators, Nintendo suing emulator creators, etc., right? Like, that entire conversation, Nintendo v. Pal World, that's such politics, dude. That is such politics. That is some real deal politics right there. Very good mention, by the way.
No, don't go. Wait. I was just kidding. All right. So in Sex with Hitler, Hitler is portrayed as having 2 testicles when historians actually debate this. Why are you leaving? By portraying Hitler with 2 testicles, fans were upset. All right. Politics and video games. Best place to start. So there's this game called Sex with Stalin. In the past, on this channel, we've covered how games have been politicized and criticized by various viewpoints and groups. They're too violent.
He was trained to kill with Call of Duty and other video games.
Shut your bitch ass up!
Hey, don't...
I feel like a lot of what's happened is that for a long time, we gamers, TM, have kind of felt this level of, like, almost a hipster feeling, right? Because, like, some of the best stories or media experiences ever created exist within gaming, right? Like, there are some Final Fantasy games that will bring a grown man to tears, all right? The end of the Walking Dead Telltale games, particularly Season 1, has brought many a grown man to tears. There are a lot of games that have brought grown men to tears, to be honest with you. Like, that is how good video games can be at telling a story. And gamers, due to the fact that video games have been looked down upon by society, people playing video games as an art form, they've been, lambasted and generally, disliked, seen as a waste of time, and a certainly non-legitimate art form for so long that we became used to this idea that we are privy to a magical little crevice of entertainment that the rest of the world doesn't even realize is lined with platinum, gold, and diamonds, right? And so we've kind of grown to almost gatekeep it a little bit. And, like, we've not yet realized that, oh yeah, video games have gone from being that to literally the highest grossing entertainment medium on planet Earth. They're, like, movies, books, audiobook, doesn't matter, TV, all of it pales in comparison to the amount of money video games make. It is the largest entertainment medium on the planet by a lot. And because of that, it's now seen as legitimate by a lot of institutions that previously we are used as gamers to not ever having thought of as seeing gaming as a legitimate, like, thing, right? And now they're treating it like it's a legitimate art form. And art forms that are seen as legitimate get critiqued rigorously. Look at movies and TV shows, for an example, right? And a lot of that is going to have some bearing in politics. People are going to, like, there's going to be some soy articles about how a character in a popular movie is actually a representation of the gay experience, and it's totally not, but, like, that person thinks it is. Like, that's going to happen. That is inevitably going to happen as these mediums get more popular. And when you stop letting the soy posters, as I might call them, color your view of an entire conversation, you've truly refined your position to the most matured point, I think, or at least a much more matured point.
Don't you dare play that Resident Evil 5, you racist.
There is only one acceptable response to a white man shooting
posting.
waves of Africans for an entire video game. No.
It's in Africa.
And hilariously, though, now we've got Grums and the Chuds saying that it is racist that in the samurai game that takes place in Japan, you're fighting and killing Japanese people as a black guy. It's like, how we come full circle, huh?
Okay.
But whenever video games are blamed for some societal woe, it's usually a desperate tactic to shift the blame away from whatever the real issue is. And today we're going to do something different. We're going to discuss politics in video games. That's right. But let's go back to Tetris real quick, because none of the game's history or involvement in politics affected how fun Tetris was. Clearly, this was a game that transcended nationalities. Many of you likely never considered if Tetris was political, because that sounds really fucking stupid. On paper, we can't say every video game is political, but you can find deeper meaning in something if you look hard enough, and Tetris is proof of that. Like, did you notice the Moscow Kremlin at the start screen? How the fuck did I never see that before? With that being said, doesn't it seem like an injustice that Alexei was never properly rewarded for his innovation? One could look at this story and come to the conclusion that, well, communism has some issues.
You don't say!
He's probably going to dig deep into this as this video goes on, which is a long video that I will be watching all of in my own time as well. And I recommend you do as well, since I'm not gonna be reacting to and re-uploading the entire video. We only react to like a good third or half of these videos if I agree with them, and you know, I'm trying to get you guys to go check it out and send your support. But like, I feel like he's had this perspective shift now where it's like, you know, I talk a lot about how games as a service is kind of an issue, how we don't own our games anymore. We're kind of renting them. How these companies that we pay full retail price to own these products for could easily take them away due to little small print in these contracts. Like I've seen him talk about these issues, and these issues are politics. And I think he knew that before, but I think now it's sort of this realization that, okay, yeah, I get what people mean now when they say it's all political, right? It's not as soy as I thought, right?
While there are no overt political messages in Tetris, like Bioshock or Deus Ex, it still serves as a... Wait. Tetris. Blocks. In a communist society, we're all just building blocks, pieces of a greater whole, if you will. We have no power or agency on our own, and it's like we're controlled by some mysterious force that forces us down. And it's only when all the pieces work together as a commune that any progress is made, that we have any value.
Oh my god.
One block out of place and the whole thing crumbles. Tetris is a game about falling in line. Get back to work. I think this type of analysis is part of the fun of what we do here on YouTube.
Fair.
Why do you think The Game Theorists is a channel that's gotten so popular over the years? I miss Matt. A lot of this stuff comes down to interpretation. I look at this guy from...
I'm not joking, by the way. I feel like the quality of game theory has gone down, like, markedly since MatPat left. I watched a couple of their videos, and in one of them, they just start, like, blatantly mispronouncing main character names from a series they're doing a video on. And it's like... What? What? Like this would have never have happened under MatPat running game theory. Like, I'm talking, like, big franchises where they're mispronouncing the names of big main characters. And it's like, okay, so the narrator clearly never played this game. Or, like, the voice dialogue reader guy. It's like, oh, man. I feel like when MatPat left, like, the assurances of, like, everything meeting the proper standards might have gotten a little shaky, you know? And that happens. That happens. But it really goes to show, name names? I forget what it was. It's been like, months. But it stuck with me as, like, oh, damn, dude. Like, shit's kind of... Like, they're kind of slacking a little bit now that MatPat's gone.
From Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice. You know what his name is? Paul Antishin. Wait, keep politics out of my Ace Attorney games.
Politics, how tiresome.
That's why they call him the Prophet of Truth, because that's all he spits. You know, sometimes politics can add a whole new dimension and level of intrigue to an existing universe. In Halo 2, I honestly wish we got to explore more of High Charity before it's taken over by the Flood. This gigantic mushroom-shaped space station.
Everyone agrees the scenes of the Covenant, particularly the ones where they are parading the Arbiter, aka Thelvadam, around as a pariah, putting him up on trial. You get to see, like, the way that the Covenant society kind of operates, their hierarchy and everything. Those scenes were the highlights of Halos 2 and 3, notably 2. It's probably why Halo 2 is my favorite Halo game. A lot of people's favorite is 3, but my favorite is 2. Halo 2 is my shit, guys. It is my bread and butter. It butters my bread. I like that. Like, that's politics right there. Those scenes where you're just, like, looking at alien politics intrigued us. For me, I was a 10-year-old, and those scenes had me, like, transfixed. I didn't understand half the words they were saying, and I was transfixed because so much of it were these complicated religious iconography terms, because the Covenant are religious fanatic aliens. And so I was transfixed as a kid at those scenes, and I didn't understand the politics, but I still understood that it meant something, and that vibed well with me even when I couldn't understand it, you know? I liked Reach. Reach is cool.
Where a conglomerate of alien races all work together. It's kind of interesting that you see these, like, elite congressmen in the stands at the start, and then later on they're fighting in the Civil War. How did all these alien races come to work together? Why are the brutes suddenly shaking things up? Tell me more about the Grunt Rebellion.
The taming of the hunters, the Grunt Rebellion. Were
By
it
the
not
books.
for the Arbiters, the Covenant would have broken long ago.
The politics of the prophets in Halo 2 and their quest for power and dominance through religious dogma is the driving force of Halo, at least the plot, and it's the basis for their great journey. So exploring the politics of the Covenant leadership objectively deepened the lore of the Halo series, and was a net positive. It also led to some of the best fucking drama and dialogue you've ever heard.
Tartarus, the prophets have betrayed us.
But you know, Nintendo doesn't really do political games, do they? Right, Reggie?
Making political statements are for other people to do. We want people to smile and have fun when they play our games.
And he's right.
Good one,
Games don't
Reggie.
have to make a statement, nor should every game be expected to. Although, Super Mario Sunshine has quite the statement to make about climate change if you really think about it. There used to be more sunshine.
I'm sure he's about to get into it, but let's talk, like, are we going to say Nintendo games aren't political, though? Because, like, Nintendo is the brand attached to it. Nintendo is the big name that insists you always associate it with every product that they own, right? Like, Nintendo doesn't want you to just love Mario. They want you to love Nintendo's Mario, right? And so Nintendo as a company and their behavior matters a lot. Like, if you're going to discuss Nintendo fandom or Nintendo games and whatnot, like the way that they are so litigious and how they are so against the preservation of their catalog, how like gatekeepy they are of their content, using hardware like the awful quality of their hardware for how expensive it is, even if it is meant to be budget and meant to be for like cartoony kids games. It's like there's a lot of the Pal World lawsuit, for instance, which I think Actman covered. Even Nintendo, while their games may not have much political commentary, if any, there is definitely a political context to discuss in regards to Nintendo and its games, and we do regularly as gamers. We do it all the time.
And now we have all this goop everywhere. Fucking Bowser and his dumb amusement park polluting the sky with greenhouse gases. Why is the government of Isle Delfino arresting Mario and not Bowser? What the fuck is this, kangaroo court? Is this really the best place to go on vacation? Okay, I'm sorry. But when making a game about war, specifically modern warfare, are the creators obligated to include some kind of message or theme?
No!
Nope. Just follow your passions. Make what you want and what's most entertaining. But, if you're gonna cover, like, real history, you gotta try to respect that. The cold hard truth is that I don't give a shit whether or not a game has something to say, as long as that is part of the entertainment. If it detracts from that and I'm being lectured, then I tune out. Call of Duty has always been controversial for its ruthless depiction of war, politics, and you know what? Sometimes America is the bad guy. Or at least that bad guy is American. I think General Shepard is one of the greatest villains the series has offered. But while Modern Warfare 2 got loads of flack for some reason, I can't remember why, the Modern Warfare reboot of 2019 was controversial, ironically, because it wasn't political enough. They were taking so much heat, the developers at Infinity Ward had to make a statement about it.
Are we telling a story that has anything to do with the specific...
If I remember right, wasn't it like silly how apolitical it tried to be? Like, if I remember right, maybe for like mixing up Call of Duty games, but I think it was just that it was silly how apolitical it wanted to be because of how heavily it wanted to talk about such politically like relevant subject matter. And so people were mostly like jabbing at it. I know that there was that one COD game, it might be the same one, where like you can choose to be non-binary in the character creation. And then I think it's Reagan respects your non-binary pronouns. And it's like, I guess that's not like avoiding political commentary. But it's like, yeah, people are going to comment about how silly that is online. Like, that was Black Ops Cold War. Yeah, like, people are going to comment about how that's kind of fucking silly. That your World War II war game does let you choose to be non-binary, and then the real Republican president from back in like the fucking 60s or 70s or whatever, is respecting your non-binary pronouns. It's like, that's a meme, okay? Like, you, at that point, you are trying so hard to be a modern game without acknowledging the modern politics and how they don't really mesh well with the time, that it's cringe. That's soy. There's a point where you try to avoid politics so much you horseshoe back around into being soy, in my opinion.
Governments of any countries that we are portraying? No.
But critics felt the game purposely hid the US's involvement in the Highway of Death mission, an event where during the Gulf War the US bombed retreating Iraq.
I guess this is a different COD game. I don't play the COD. I haven't played COD since Black Ops 2. I think I played a bit of Black Ops 3 on like my uncle's PlayStation, but like so little of the multiplayer, not even the campaign. Yeah, I guess that's fair. Maybe like the game kind of whitewashes some American atrocities.
Iraqi soldiers and civilians. But you know, it's a video game and we want to sell this to Americans, so let's just say the Russians did it. You guys hate the Russians, don't you? See, I have a problem with
I hope he brings this up, but we never accept this when it's done for another country. Like, we really do not, as gamers, accept this when it's done for another country, right? Who remembers the Blitzchung China Free Hong Kong debacle? Because Blizzard has such a vested interest in making money off of selling their products in China, they were actively punishing esports players for their games that came out in favor of liberated Hong Kong. And so that the Blitzchung guy, the Hearthstone player, said like free Hong Kong, or like put up a sign that said free Hong Kong or something like that for like half a second during a live stream of like a championship for Hearthstone. He got fired, and gamers lost their fucking minds. The idea that you would minimize a real atrocity or political thing as a greedy publishing company to ruin some guy's political career, to cover up some bullshit, like governments, like some bullshit that a government did that is against people's human rights. All the while, you're doing so just to sell better in China. No one was willing to give Blizzard the benefit of the doubt on that. Everyone was rightfully calling out Blizzard for it. But I feel like gamers, American and even just Western gamers as a whole, were very prone to give Call of Duty the pass when, let's say, this was a very popular Chinese franchise that, I don't know, depicts some horrific atrocity that, like, China committed as, like, totally cool and based. And it's like, well, listen, all right, we had, or it's an American game. We had to do this because we want to sell the game well in China. It would be a scandal unlike anything imaginable if the same thing was done in order to sell better to a country that wasn't America. Only America could get whitewashed like this in a game, and the excuse to be, we're trying to sell to Americans, so it's all good.
Including a mission that's based on a real event, and then trying to sanitize it. It seemed like Infinity Ward wanted to avoid portraying the, shall we say, questionable things the United States did during the Gulf War. And I don't know about you, but it always pisses me off when Call of Duty just is clearly pulling punches and trying to give us some pussy-ass version of war. I shot at the Nazi, that is my plan. Let's go save the Jews, guys, hooray! Speaking of, who could forget playing as my team in Call of Duty Vanguard and fighting, who? The enemy team. God.
Grandpa, can you tell me about your team? How you fought for your team in World War II? Yes, my team.
Who was the enemy team?
Look at my glorious team.
No real-world military factions here, people. It's too offensive. All right. Would you like to open some loot boxes on the beaches of...
You're sitting there playing your favorite first-person shooter, and then all of a sudden, you're a Nazi. You didn't ask for this. You didn't want this. And yet, here you are. You're a Nazi.
Normandy, like your forefathers? As the series seems to continue losing respect for real military conflicts and portraying them as accurately as they can, I too have a declining respect for Call of Duty.
If no one knows what I'm referring to, hold on. Can I find the? I have to. If you don't know what I'm joking about or referencing here. Okay, this is a response
There you are,
video.
playing the PvP in your World War II shooter, and all of a sudden, you're a Nazi.
Strap in, fuckos. You're about to get big-brained realness from a YouTube.
Ah, god damn it! Play the whole clip. Play the whole clip.
Tube animator who says all of the sudden unironically.
You didn't ask for this. You didn't choose this. Yet there it is. And it's treated no differently than playing a British soldier.
Do your initial...
That's a classic right there.
Call of Duty fans don't agree on much, but one thing we all agree on is that COD 4 was probably the best. And comparing it to the Modern Warfare remake, COD 4 was way more nuanced. And they intentionally avoided naming real-world countries or people because all they wanted to do at the end of the day was take the style of World War II shooter they had and change it to a modern setting. Even though COD 4 reflects real-world events, it's up to each individual player to interpret what those might mean. But there's clearly no direct political statement preached to the player. It's just pure FPS, solid entertainment. And it depicts modern warfare in a more ambiguous way. Call of Duty 4 was political by nature, not by design, and that's a huge difference that a lot of people don't talk about. What's another good example? World at War. Call of Duty World at War is fucking awesome. It's a masterpiece, but its politics are very far divorced from our current timeline. At least I think they are. So nothing is really controversial about its portrayal of World War II and the horrors that lay within. I think the game is as historically accurate as it can be, and it pulls no punches. World at War starts and ends with the statement it has to make. World War II was fucked up. That's it. We know who the bad guys are. However, while they show the bloodlust, vengeance, and hatred of the Russian people through Reznov, Treyarch did something interesting. They added a character that showed a side of mercy, portraying World War II with more moral complexity than many other World War II games.
Chernov! I am not hearing gunshots!
There is no point, Sergeant. They are already bleeding to death.
Then maybe our friend...
Dude, old COD, I'm not gonna lie, old COD campaigns, their vibes were pretty immaculate. Can we all admit, like, early, like PS2 Call of Duty in particular, immaculate vibes. Immaculate vibes in the campaign.
We'll have them bleed faster.
The Nazis are bad, but are we going too far type shit. That's why Chernov and Reznov act as your moral guidance through the Russian side of the campaign. And the decision is on the player on whether they carry out Reznov's vengeance or embrace Chernov's mercy. And you get slightly different monologues from Chernov's journal depending on your choices.
His bravery on the battlefield is beyond question, but he has also shown mercy amidst the brutality of the Red Army. His merciless brutality defines him only as a savage, just like the rest of the Red Army.
Now,
I want to watch the rest of this video, but obviously it's been going on for a while, and I don't want to, take up too much of the Actman's original video and just, re-upload it on my channel. I want to give you a taste, so you go and watch the original video yourselves. Give it your view, give it your attention, your comments, your likes, and your watch time, and even your subs. I thought this video was really good. People have been telling me that, Actman went woke, but I think what a lot of you need to realize is that the reason why this anti-woke, anti-DEI, grifter culture has sprouted up is because, much like what Andrew Tate and the Red Pill Bros did, they based their entire hook of their brand on making observations about a particular area that were arguably somewhat accurate, but then extrapolating those observations slowly or quickly, in the case of the Red Pill sphere, into insane conclusions, right? And I don't think it helps very much that oftentimes the left denies the observations on their face without thinking, okay, maybe maybe there are some true observations that a lot of people do notice, and if the right is the only one talking about these things and legitimizing these very obvious things people notice, and the left is denying it, then people are going to rally behind these right-wing figures who seem to be the only ones that are talking about this thing that everyone knows is a thing, right? And in the case of gaming, I think it was the fact that there were definitely cases where we had some pretty soy game developers doing some, like, heavy virtue signaling, right? I think a really good example of this is Neil Druckmann and The Last of Us 2. I like The Last of Us, and I like The Last of Us 2, don't get me wrong. But Neil Druckmann is, like, kind of a cuck. That, like, I've done some deep dives on the guy, okay? Now, for one, he basically stole, like, a lot of the credit. Like, he's the guy that everyone associates as, like, the director, the man, the mind behind The Last of Us and whatnot. But in reality, there's this woman who actually was, like, the long-term Naughty Dog, like, big brain who created the Uncharted games. Was, like, the brain, like, that was her brainchild. And the same goes for a lot of the concepts of The Last of Us. In fact, she's the one who refined The Last of Us to the point where it was even, like, good. And it leaked that Neil Druckmann originally wanted to make The Last of Us something called Mankind, which would be about a virus that kills off all the women on the planet, and there's only men left, and they're all, like, killing each other and violent and stuff. And then Ellie is the last woman on the planet because she's immune to the virus that's killed all the other women. And it took a woman reading this script to tell Neil, this is really bad and cringe, and we need to rewrite this entire concept. And eventually, together, they came up with The Last of Us. She was then ousted from the company and laid off, I believe. But she literally made Uncharted. She is responsible for everything good about The Last of Us. And then we get The Last of Us 2, which, don't get me wrong, The Last of Us 1 had some, like, political, progressive virtue signaling messaging, but it felt very genuine, right? It's why it was able to become the Bill and Frank episode of The Last of Us show, right? But The Last of Us 2 at times did feel preachy with its politics, in a way that the first didn't. Does anyone else feel like they detected that? Because to be clear, the second one did not have that woman's, I forget her name, and I feel bad that I'm calling her that woman, but I don't know her name right now off the top of my head, which is kind of part of the problem, right? Neil Druckmann is a guy who basically stole her like, life's work and became the head of the studio when she's the one who built it up. And I don't remember her name, but I know Neil Druckmann's name. That's like the big tragedy of this, isn't it? That's the tragedy of this entire story. And the main point at the end of the day is that I do think that some devs, or I should say some, game designers, game devs, game directors, I should say. Amy Hennig, thank you. Or Hennig? Amy Hennig? I think people like Neil Druckmann are surprisingly common in the gaming and movie industry. Really smug, up their own asses directors and writers who genuinely think their shit doesn't stink. Another good example of someone like this in the gaming industry that's not as necessarily, like, politically, disliked for political reasons, is David Cage, the creator of games such as Detroit Become Human, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls. Great games, don't get me wrong. Last of Us 1 and 2, great games. All those David Cage games, great games. But can we all agree that there's this, like, air of smug, pretentious soy to it? Like, that's the only way I can describe it. I'm not the only one who gets that vibe, right? You guys get what I'm talking about? Like, that you can feel that the person who wrote this thinks their shit does not stink. I cannot be the only one who gets these vibes, right? Like you guys get what I'm talking about? Don't forget Hideo Kojima to an extent. I disagree there because Hideo Kojima, I feel like, has earned a lot of the reputation, the positive reputation he has, right? Like, this is a guy who literally was, like, the laws that he worked under, as far as like labor laws go, would be illegal in America, which is fucking crazy. The guy was forced by Konami to not accept the Game Award for Metal Gear Solid 5, or I think it was it was a different game, right? He couldn't accept the Game Award for something else because he was made to work on another project by Konami. Then he left, started his own studio, and is now running one of the most successful like new studios in gaming. I can definitely see where you're coming from there, that he's a little bit like dick-ridden over like a lot, but he's earned it. You know, it's like one of those rare cases where someone gets like heavily glazed, but they've earned most of it. Like they've earned most of the praise they get. You know. Anyway. Like my point overall is that there are definitely some games that come off as like aggressively preachy if you're not kind of inoculated against caring about that kind of thing. And I think a lot of people on the left, like, they'll see a piece of media that's being really preachy and they won't even notice it because it just doesn't register as like cringe to them, and so they don't even pick up on it. But the average person really does. And I think Actman is one of those people who's like noticed these things, has found them cringe, has wanted to call them out, but for so long now, the only people who gave those arguments the time of day were these right-wing grifters like Grums and you know, Andy Pants, and you could go down the list of these right-wing grifter bros that were only acknowledging these observations in order to lead into a prescriptive argument that's quite radical and insane. Whether it be that like these devs need to be fired and mass laid off because we need to root the wokeness out of the gaming industry or whatever, or that we need to boycott this game because it's got a gay person in it. Like, it's gotten extreme. Anyway, I really like this video by Actman. I'm curious what the comments are like. Splatoon being the game shown under every video game is political is even more funny when you know Splatoon's story. The Grunt Rebellion was the Grunts absolutely kicking all the rest of the Covenant's ass so hard they had to glass their home planet to get them to stop out of sheer sadness. If I don't see a single Metal Gear reference in this video, I'm riding against you. Art asks you to think. Propaganda tells you what you should think. If you want to witness the fate of democracies, look out the window, Mr. House. Bro does not want to make the RDR2 video. The quote from Reznov in Black Ops will always be the most relatable thing in today's time. The flag may be different, but methods are the same. They will use you as they used me. Such a chilling line. I don't think that's a very relatable line, I'm going to be honest, unless you're, like, in the military. Anyway, I like that Actman was able to have this conversation in a way that did not bristle the hairs on a lot of his fans who might hear, like, video games are political and immediately go, like, cringe. A lot of the comments are pretty reasonable, even when you sort by newest. Actually, I like this comment. I feel like when most people say keep politics out of video games, they actually mean keep, quote, your politics and social political views and messaging out of games, especially when they are just shoehorned in to make some activist statement and serve no purpose when it comes to the story or plot of the game. There are certain political undertones to games that, if done right, are amazing, like Metal Gear Solid series, and then there is the Veilguard type that are just shoehorned into a world to signal and make a statement to the chuds. The thing about Dragon Age Veilguard, which they point to a lot as an example, from what I hear, the game has problems, but, like, hasn't that series always just been, like, a heavy RPG where characters are straight, gay, or bi, and that determines romance options and character arcs and, like, where characters end up and who they end up with and stuff, and that's just part of Dragon Age? Is there, like, a scene where the characters in Dragon Age sit you down and they like, look at the camera and say, being gay is fine, and we should accept all people, no matter where they come from and how they... Like, I don't know if Dragon Age Veilguard has something that shoehorned or on the nose, but, like, people are going after that. Literally, yes, they do. Okay, if that happens literally in the game, then I kind of get why people... Why so many people, even outside of the chud zone, are a little triggered by it. Vilgard has exactly that. Okay, interesting. Anyway. With that said, I quite liked the Ackman video. I thought it was pretty good. And I hope you guys liked it as well. If so, go consider hitting that link down below in the description to leave a sub, a like, and a comment on the original video and watch it yourselves, because we only watched 13 minutes of a 34-minute video. Don't want to just rip his entire video and upload it on my channel, so go check it out yourselves. And of course, if you liked my coverage of it, then please consider leaving a like and a comment and a sub on my channel. It really helps a lot. It's the best way to support my content and to, you know, get my stuff in the algorithm so more people see it. And of course, if you want to see more from me on other platforms, you can follow my social medias, linked down below in the description. And if you want to support me directly, financially, to help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xanderhall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, StreamElements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xanderhall merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you all so much for watching, as always, and have a good one.